Our next speaker is my colleague, Rodolphe Wouters from the European Commission, from DG GROW. He's a policy officer for ICT standardization at DG GROW. He coordinates across all services of the Commission to identify the needs of ICT standardization for support of EU policies. And he's, let's say, the father of the rolling plan, which is published every year, which collects all these standardization needs from across all services. He's also in charge of setting up the European Catalogue on ICT standards for procurement, and this is the latter project that will introduce us today. So, Rodolphe, please.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you a little bit about public procurement. Public procurement and the link with sharing and reuse. I think you are all here because you think that sharing and reuse is something to be something useful. But how does it, and that's the old presentation, but okay. How does it actually happen? How do you actually reuse something? Reuse is not only about reusing software. It's not just Googling on what interoperability solutions you have in JoinUp. It's not about looking at the service catalog. It's at first a journey. It's a journey which takes you from understanding the problem, then trying to find a solution, and then be benevolent enough to actually share it. It's about people doing this. It's about thinking through a problem. So thinking about the process that led you to reuse, I think we really have to see procurement as a major activity for sharing and reuse. Sharing and reuse needs to be enshrined in public procurement. So far, we have been focusing in procurement on paper, moving paper to workflows and databases, digitalizing procurement, e-procurement. And I think this is the old age. You all heard about digital transformation. You heard it a lot. You heard it maybe too much. IoT, smart cities, etc. But do you know how to do it in procurement? Do you know how to do it right? Do you know how to do it and then share it? Do you know how to exchange with the other member states, to exchange with other agencies facing the same issues? I think in procurement we need to shift from looking at the digitalization of processes, looking at digitalizing administrative processes and workflows, to a much more value-oriented procurement. And what is a value procurement? What is a value procurement thing? It's something that takes into account the fact that the digital transformation has changed the landscape. IoT is bringing new services. It's bringing the once-only principle to your door. You much more need interoperability to work with something. And you're much more linking with the citizens. You're much relating to them. And you're providing new services to them. So it cannot just be any more focusing on price. Procurement should also focus on the value you are delivering. And that means you have to build skills. You have to build expertise on how to deliver this value with ICT. And so far, procurement is really not fit to digitalization. I said it already, you really need to tackle with the specific consequences of the digital in procurement. And what are these specific consequences? One of them is standards. Standards is actually regulated by the Procurement Directive, Article 42. You cannot just use any standard in a tender. You have to do it according to law, because otherwise you would create barriers to trade. And that is why Article 42 is there. And there are 12% of infractions. People don't know how to use standards. People don't know why they should use standards. They should use it because it would reduce the life cycle costs. Actually, interoperability and standards is an external cost. It's something that you need after your contract. You need to extract the data from what you have procured, to use it in other softwares, to use it in other contracts. And if you don't design that interoperability, if you don't use the standards rightly in your tender, then you will lose that ability. I go fast, so I skip a few things. So really, interoperability removes the costs associated to digital solutions which cannot exchange data. And I would say that interoperability costs should be integrated in your award criteria. You should be seeing this as a cost, as something which is pumping your money out. Strategic procurement. Strategic procurement is another specific consequence, another thing, another dimension you have to account for in your procurement. Strategic procurement, it's about innovative procurement, green procurement, social procurement. But again, the same question, how do you do that in procurement? How do you buy social? How do you buy green? And there are general guidelines available in Europe, national EU guidelines, but there are too many. And they are not applying to your own issue. So what we seek with the European Catalogue is to apply guidance, is to take all the different initiatives, be it strategic procurement, be it e-government, the 7 principles, open interoperability by default, and all the others, and to apply it to the specific case. What we want to do with the European Catalogue is to catalogue needs, procurement needs, problems. Aristotle said, the beginning of wisdom is to define, and you have to first define what the problem is before you can even exchange between the member states knowledge and know-how, guidelines, successes, failures. So you shouldn't focus only about the ICT. You should focus on the definition of the problem. And you should develop a common understanding of how to address these problems between Europe. And we didn't do it so far. So currently, we have developed a prototype in JoinUp for the European Catalogue, which is tackling with different sectors, cloud, efficient energy systems, electronic tolling systems, e-government, criminal records and social security, and pure ICT. And we would like to raise a community between the member states to exchange on those practices, to address really what is the problem, to agree on them, and to foster really a definition of what the solution can be. And that is a prerequisite for sharing and reuse. You don't want to reuse and share something which is not perfect, which is not really useful to many, many people. You have to design it from the beginning. You have to see it holistically. You have to see it in connection with all the rest. So the European Catalogue also relates to the CEF implementations, the Connecting Europe facility. It's reusing EID and all the other blocks. We're considering a communication later to address the professionalization aspects and the digital. And it's not about regulation. It's really about fostering a community and creating exchanges. If you want more, I hope you do, you can go to the JoinUp community, join it, and get informed on whatever webinar we would like to organize, to precisely discuss those needs and then put on them all the knowledge that you have developed. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodolphe.